Alright, let's start with something that sounds like it came straight out of a sci-fi movie. What if Jupiter, the biggest planet in our solar system, somehow became a star? Yeah, I know, it seems impossible. But wait, maybe not so impossible after all. Jupiter is massive, right? It's so big that if you took all the other planets and moons in our solar system and combined them, they'd still be smaller than Jupiter. So, could this giant gas planet somehow become a star? Well, let's break it down. Stars are born from clouds of gas and dust, mostly hydrogen and helium, right? And for something to become a star, it needs enough mass to start fusing hydrogen into helium in its core. That process is what powers the sun and other stars we see in the sky. Now, Jupiter has about 318 times the mass of Earth, which is already way more than our planet. But even with that, it's still nowhere near the mass required to become a star on its own. The minimum mass needed for a star is called the Chandrasekhar limit, and it's roughly 0.08 times the mass of the Sun. Jupiter is way below that threshold. But here's where things get interesting. What if Jupiter somehow gained more mass? If it could somehow accumulate enough material, like if a bunch of other planets or even nearby stars collided with it, then maybe it could reach that critical mass and start fusing hydrogen. In that case, Jupiter wouldn't just be a planet anymore. It would become a red dwarf star, the smallest and coolest type of star out there. Red dwarfs are common in our galaxy, so this scenario isn't entirely out of the question, even if it's pretty far-fetched. Now, let's think about what that would mean for our solar system. If Jupiter became a star, it would be a tiny one, maybe only about 10% the mass of the Sun. But even that would have massive consequences. The gravitational pull of this new red dwarf would change the orbits of all the other planets. Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars might get thrown into chaotic paths or even collide with each other. And what about the asteroid belt? It could become a dangerous zone where debris is pulled in by Jupiter's newfound gravity. But wait, what if Jupiter didn't just become a star but actually exploded? That's another possibility. If it somehow accumulated enough mass to trigger fusion, it might not be stable and could end up as a brown dwarf or even explode like a supernova. But that's probably more of a sci-fi scenario than something we need to worry about. Still, the idea is fascinating because it shows how close Jupiter is to becoming a star, and what kind of chaos that could bring to our solar system. Alright, let's talk about red dwarf stars because they're the most common type in our galaxy and, believe it or not, Jupiter could one day become one. Red dwarfs are small, cool, and dim compared to our Sun, which is a yellow dwarf. They're like the runts of the stellar litter. Tiny but stubborn, burning for billions of years without breaking a sweat. In fact, they can last up to 10 trillion years, which is way longer than the current age of the universe. So if Jupiter somehow managed to become a star, it might not be the dramatic supernova you're expecting. It could just quietly shine as a red dwarf for eons. Red dwarfs are mostly made of hydrogen and helium like all stars, but they're much smaller, usually less than about 0.6 times the mass of our Sun. Because of their low mass, they don't have enough gravity to fuse hydrogen into helium at the same rate as larger stars. Instead, they burn their fuel very slowly, which is why they can live so long. Think of them like a campfire that burns for centuries instead of minutes. Steady, reliable, and not too flashy. They also emit most of their light in the infrared spectrum, which means they look more like glowing embers than bright stars to our eyes. Now, here's where things get interesting. Jupiter is currently a gas giant planet, but if it somehow gained enough mass, like way more than it has now, it could potentially become a red dwarf star. The key factor here is mass. To become a star, an object needs to be massive enough for its gravity to overcome the thermal pressure of the gases inside it and start fusing hydrogen into helium. Jupiter's current mass is about 318 times that of Earth, but even if it somehow doubled or tripled in size, it would still fall short of the minimum required to become a star. However, if it were to accumulate enough material from nearby space, like a cosmic version of eating a whole galaxy, it might just make the leap into stardom. But wait, there's more. Red dwarfs are also known for being quite temperamental when it comes to planets. Their strong magnetic fields and frequent flares can wreak havoc on any orbiting worlds, making them less hospitable than stars like our Sun. If Jupiter somehow became a red dwarf, its moons, like Europa or Ganymede, might face extreme conditions, with intense radiation and magnetic storms that could make life as we know it impossible. So while the idea of Jupiter becoming a star is fascinating, it might not be the best news for any potential alien life in our solar system. In summary, red dwarf stars are the workhorses of the universe, common, long-lived, and relatively quiet compared to their more massive counterparts. They're like the unassuming heroes of the cosmic stage, burning steadily without fanfare. And while Jupiter might not be a star just yet, it's theoretically possible if it could somehow gain enough mass. But let's not get too excited. Unless we're planning on giving our planet a cosmic upgrade, maybe we should focus on keeping things as they are for now. Okay, so imagine Jupiter isn't just a giant gas planet, but a full-blown star. That's not just a sci-fi scenario. It's a hypothetical that could totally mess up our solar system. If Jupiter became a star, its mass would skyrocket, and with that mass comes a whole lot of gravitational pull. You know how gravity keeps the planets in their orbits? Well, if Jupiter's gravity suddenly got way stronger, it'd be like having a giant magnet that's constantly pulling everything towards itself. Now, think about all those other planets: Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, and even the outer gas giants. They're all dancing around the sun in their own little orbits, right? But if Jupiter's gravity becomes so intense, it could start messing with their paths. Imagine Mercury getting pulled closer to Jupiter, or maybe even being flung out of its orbit entirely. That would be a disaster for our inner solar system, and we'd have to worry about asteroids and comets crashing into Earth more than ever before. But wait, there's more. If Jupiter were a star, it might not just affect the planets, it could also start pulling in nearby objects like asteroids and space debris. These things are already floating around out there, but with Jupiter's new gravitational strength, they'd be more likely to get caught in its orbit or even collide with other planets. Picture Earth getting hit by an asteroid that was once on a path toward Mars. Now it's heading straight for us because of Jupiter's gravitational tug-of-war. And let's not forget about the outer solar system. Neptune and Pluto are already pretty far out, but if Jupiter becomes a star, its gravity could start messing with their orbits too. You might even see some planets getting thrown into chaotic paths or even being ejected from the solar system altogether. It's like having a giant cosmic game of tag where Jupiter is the ultimate player, pulling everything around it and making things unpredictable. So, in short, if Jupiter became a star, our solar system would be in for a wild ride. Planets could get thrown out of their orbits, asteroids might start crashing into Earth more frequently, and the whole system could become a chaotic mess. It's a reminder that even though Jupiter is massive, it's still just a planet, and turning it into a star would be like adding a new player to a game with completely different rules. Okay, so imagine Jupiter suddenly becoming a star, like, full stop, no more gas giant, now it's a blazing ball of nuclear fire. That would be a total game changer for our solar system, especially for Earth. You see, Jupiter is currently the biggest planet in our system and has a massive gravitational pull. If it were to become a star, its gravity would still be there, but now it's way more intense because stars are super dense and have way more mass than planets. So, Earth's orbit might start acting like a yo-yo, sometimes getting closer, sometimes drifting away. That kind of instability could mean we're in for some serious orbital chaos. Now, let's talk about climate changes. If Jupiter were a star, it would emit tons of light and heat. Imagine the sun being replaced by a second, much brighter star, Jupiter-sized, but way more powerful. Earth would be bombarded with extra radiation and heat, which could cause temperatures to skyrocket. Think global warming on steroids. The atmosphere might start boiling, oceans could evaporate into space, and life as we know it would have a hard time surviving. Plus, the increased solar wind from Jupiter's stellar status could strip away our planet's magnetic field, leaving us vulnerable to cosmic radiation. But wait, what if Earth actually got closer to Jupiter? That might not be good news either. If Jupiter were a star and Earth started orbiting it instead of the Sun, we'd be in for some serious gravitational tugs of war. The pull from Jupiter's new stellar status could cause our planet to spiral into an elliptical orbit or even get flung out of the solar system entirely. Imagine Earth being pulled like a toy on a string, sometimes closer, sometimes farther, and who knows when it might snap. That kind of instability would make for some pretty dramatic climate shifts, with seasons becoming unpredictable and extreme weather events becoming the norm. Another thing to consider is how Jupiter's new stellar status could affect other planets in our system. If Earth is getting pulled around, what about Mars or Venus? They might also experience orbital changes, which could lead to collisions or massive gravitational disturbances. Plus, if Jupiter were a star, it would probably have its own planetary system, maybe even some exoplanets orbiting it. That means we'd be sharing our solar neighborhood with other worlds, and Earth's position in the cosmic dance would be more complicated than ever. In short, if Jupiter became a star, Earth's orbit and climate would face unimaginable challenges. The gravitational forces would disrupt our current path, leading to unpredictable orbital shifts, while the intense heat and radiation from Jupiter's new stellar status could make life on Earth impossible. It's like having a giant, fiery neighbor that doesn't care about your cozy little planet. So, while it's fun to imagine, let's just hope Jupiter stays a gas giant for now because we're not ready for a cosmic upgrade. Okay, so imagine Jupiter isn't just a giant gas planet, but actually a star. That's not just sci-fi. It's a scenario we're exploring here. If Jupiter somehow became a star, it would emit tons of radiation and stellar winds, which are basically supercharged solar winds. These aren't your average breezes. They're like cosmic hurricanes that could tear through Earth's atmosphere with the force of 1,000 suns. And let me tell you, Earth's atmosphere is already pretty delicate, so this would be like trying to hold back a tidal wave with a bucket. Now, radiation from a new star like Jupiter would be intense. It's not just about heat. It's about high-energy particles and electromagnetic waves that can strip away the very gases that make our air breathable. Think of Earth's atmosphere as a protective shield, and this new star would be like a giant vacuum cleaner, sucking up oxygen, nitrogen, and even water vapor. Over time, this process could turn Earth into a barren rock similar to Mars, which has a thin atmosphere because it lost most of its original gases. But wait, stellar winds are just as dangerous. These aren't the gentle breezes you feel on a summer day. They're streams of charged particles moving at millions of miles per hour. If Jupiter were a star, these winds would blast Earth's magnetic field like a sledgehammer, weakening it and making our planet more vulnerable to solar storms. You know how sometimes your phone gets fried by lightning? Imagine that happening constantly, except the source is a star 300 times farther away than the sun. And here's the kicker. Even if Earth somehow survived the initial onslaught, the long-term effects would be catastrophic. The atmosphere we rely on for life would gradually disappear, leaving behind a planet with no air to breathe and no water to drink. It's like trying to keep a fire going in a hurricane. Eventually, everything gets blown away. Plus, without an atmosphere, Earth's temperature would plummet, turning the surface into a frozen wasteland where only the most resilient organisms could survive. So, while it's fun to imagine Jupiter as a star, the reality is that such a transformation would be devastating for our planet. The radiation and stellar winds from a new star like Jupiter would strip away Earth's atmosphere, making it less habitable and altering its environment in ways we can't even begin to predict. It's a reminder of how delicate our home is, and how important it is to protect it.